Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. This right here is quite possibly one of the most controversial cooking ingredients out there. This is Mono Sodium Glutamate, also known as MSG. When I was growing up, MSG had a very malign public face, with many people claiming that it was dangerous to consume and caused a multitude of health problems. Others simply believed that it was regulated to low quality food and was a flavor enhancer to make crappy food taste better. Now, I'm not qualified to tell you if it's safe to consume or not. That's up to you and your doctor. But from a little bit of the research that I've found, a lot of those studies from the 90s and the early 2000s were really not exactly based on fact. All that being said, the folks out there who claim that they don't like MSG, that they don't eat MSG because it makes them sick, would really be surprised to find out how much of it is in just about everything. It's in products all across your grocery store, and it's not only labeled as MSG, in some cases it's labeled as hydrolyzed protein, analyzed yeast, monosodium salt, monohydrate, and many, many more names. If you look up online, you'll see a huge list of names for MSG type products that are basically the exact same thing that go under different names. And to be honest, I bet you if you look through your pantries, you're gonna find a whole bunch of your favorite snacks probably have it. For example, I opened mine up, goldfish have it. And surprisingly, chicken stock has it. Now, to be completely fair, the chicken stock has it from a natural ingredient, but that natural ingredient is technically MSG. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, this is a barbecue channel. Why do we care about MSG? Well, I have noticed that MSG has slowly sunk into a whole bunch of those commercial rubs and marinades without us really looking at it. And then if you do some internet dives into the world of competitive barbecue, you'll find that a lot of those award-winning rubs, they have MSG. Now in that case, MSG was added intentionally, which makes me think a little bit. Should I be doing this in my own rubs? Is there a reason why they're choosing to use this? If it's an additive chosen specifically, there had to be a reason for it, right? I honestly have no idea. So what we're going to do is take the scientific approach. As I cook up some of my future meals for you guys, I'm going to add in MSG and do a little test of my own. I'm going to test A, if I can even tell if it has MSG, and B, is it better with MSG or without? Now, as far as the details of the test, I'm going to base it around 25% and 50% of my salt. What that means is if in a particular meat I put 1 teaspoon of salt, I'm going to put a 1/4 teaspoon in, and another test will be 50% or 1/2 teaspoon in. Now with all those details out of the way, let's get started. For my first test, I'm going to do chicken. I have cooked up 3 drumsticks, and this is my methodology here. What we have here are 3 equally sized portions of my honey barbecue rub. To make this rub, I used my standard recipe, and then I added in 1 tablespoon of salt. Now 1 tablespoon of salt is equivalent to 3 teaspoons. So what I'm gonna do is take 1, set it aside, that's gonna be my control. And then for these 2, I'm going to have one of them have a 1/4 of the amount of salt in MSG, and the other one be 1/2 of the amount of salt in MSG. Since I did 1 tablespoon of salt, each of these you can say would be 1 teaspoon. So for this, I'm going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of MSG, and for this one, I will do a 1/2 teaspoon of MSG. And then I'm just gonna rub down my chicken using the control group, the 1/4, and the 1/2. So all 3 of these have been smoked up the exact same way. I have them randomized. I don't know which is which. And I know that one of them is going to be the 50%, one is going to be the 25%, and one is going to be the control. I'm going to do a taste test of all 3, determine what I like, what I don't like, and then we'll flip them over and see what comes up with. So let's start with number 1. It's good. Tastes like honey barbecue. I don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm going to say that is the control. Let's try number 2. Also very good. Flavor is very similar, but has less, it's hard to describe. Has less flavor to it, less enhancement. I'm going to say that one of these has the MSG to it and the other one does not. Or it has MSG to it, meaning this one has MSG in a larger amount than this one does. Let's try the third. You know, this one, I feel like it's very similar to the second one. The first one stands out differently. These 2, it's really hard to tell the difference between them, which means I'm going to guess that this has MSG. This is probably the heavy MSG, which is the 50% of the salt content. I honestly couldn't make a guess. I'm going to say this is the 25, this is the base level. I'm pretty sure that this has more MSG in it. I can get more of that flavor. I'm gonna try it one more time. And then compare it to one of these. Yeah, there's definitely something more to this than to either of these. Let's see how we did. Oh, okay. So this is the 50%. So this is the heavier MSG. The second one and the third one, which I couldn't tell a difference. The second one was the control and the third one was the 25%. So I guess what I'm learning here is 25% of this particular rub on chicken, can't really tell a difference. I can definitely tell a difference on 50. Whether or not I like it more, I don't think it really adds enough where I would actually feel like I need to do it. I don't think my chicken needs to have MSG in it. This is not much of a difference for me to really feel a differentiation on my honey barbecue rub. Maybe at a different type of rub, but definitely not my honey barbecue on these drumsticks. I'm not really feeling enough of a difference. That being said, let's go to a different type of meat and a different flavor profile and see if I feel differently. And for our second test, we are going to do pork spare ribs. As you can tell, I do not have these in barbecue sauce. I cook these completely with my Supernova coffee rub, which is more of a savory rub. For this test, I want to determine if pork and savory is different than chicken and sweet in our last test. So for these, I did my standard amount of coffee rub and my standard amount of salt, and then I cut them into fourths. And then I determined for 1/4 what would be 50% of the salt content would be MSG, what would be 25% MSG, wanted as a control, and then the other fourth went off to the significant other for her to have her dinner. I do not know which of these has MSG, which doesn't, so I'm going to be going into this in blind taste test. I'm going to see if I can tell which one has MSG and determine if I like it more than another, and we'll just kind of figure out, should I do this in all my rubs going forward? So, without further ado, let's give it the old taste test. Now to get started, we are going to go with letter A. So I'm going to chop off a rib here. And we are going to give it a taste test. It's very good. Very savory, not sweet. It's a good rib. And cooked perfectly. I mean, you can see the amount of red on this. Delicious. This tastes a little different than my usual ribs. I'm going to guess that this one has MSG in it. And I'm going off of that only because I haven't cooked these ribs dry in a long time. But it tastes a little bit, something more to it. I think this has MSG in it. But again, I'm also just completely guessing because I haven't tried the other ones. So let's try letter B. Here we go. It's very interesting. This is also very good. There's less something in this than this one, which is why I'm reaffirming that this has MSG. I can't taste it in this that I can in this. It's not more salt. It's not like a level of sweetness and salt was not mixed. There's definitely something different in this than this one. Still a very good rib, but there's something more in the first than this one. And now for rib set, letter C. Also a very good rib, but I'm having trouble differentiating between B and C here. I'm going to have another little piece of mostly the bark side of B. And a little bit of a bark side of C. C is better. I don't know what B is, but C is better. And then let's try A again compared to C and see if I still can taste more flavor on it. A is the best. Between B and C, I could kind of give or take, but A is absolutely the best here. I would say, if I'm just guessing here, I'm going to say MSG is flavor enhancing this. This is the 50. And then one of these is the 25 and one is the control. I think this is the 25 and this is the 0. But I could kind of go either way on them. So let's see, what are our answers here? A, 50%. So A is the 50%. Got that one right. B is the control. Okay, I got that one right too. And then C would be the 25. Okay, so for savory and pork, what I'm determining here, For just a dry rub, not wet with any sweetness, it's a very savory type of rub. The 50% of my salt content in MSG is the winner. 25%, I think I kind of said would be number 2. And then the control is number 3. But these 25 and control are kind of off on their own. 50% definitely has a taste test that I like a little bit more. But am I going to replace all of my rubs going forward with MSG if I'm doing a savory rib? I don't know about that. That being said, this was quite good, and I definitely recommend giving it a try for doing a full savory rub. But let's move on to the next test. For my third test, we're gonna go with beef. In this case, we're gonna go with beef brisket. These are the meatballs I made for my bone me episode, and I took some of the meat, set it aside, and kept some as a control group, used the 25%, 50%, the same way I've been doing these ratios for all of these tests. What I wanna know is, with going with a flavor profile that is not sweet, it's much more savory because it's all beef, and it's just, you know, garlic and a little bit of basil, those kind of flavors. Would MSG lend itself to being good in this scenario? Just like the other tests, I have these randomized. I don't know which is which. So let's begin. Over on my right here, I'm going to go with A, and we'll take half of a meatball. It's yummy. Since I have nothing compared to, I don't know if it has the MSG or not, but it's a good meatball. So let's go on to letter B. Also very good, and I can't really tell a difference. So it's possible that MSG doesn't lend itself at all to these, or these are the 25 and the 0%, which in the past couple of tests I've determined haven't really had a flavor difference. Let's go with C. I kind of taste something more in C. I'm not entirely sure if that's just my brain playing tricks on me or if there's something different to it. But let's try them again, we'll start with B and compare that to C. B tastes flatter than C. Let's try A again. The second time around, A actually seems like it has a little bit more to it. Let me try C for the last time. All right, if I had a guess, I would say B has no MSG. I think A actually has the 50% and C has the 25. Could be wrong, let's find out. A is the 25%, B is the control, and C is the 50. So in this test, I can definitely taste something more with the MSG in there. I had the 50 and the 25% off, but I was able to tell that between the two, they definitely had more to them than the control. Isn't enough for me to change all my ratios around and start using MSG? Maybe not. But it's definitely something there. For our last test, we're gonna go with salmon. This is part of my blackened salmon recipe, and I have the same as before, a control, 25% and 50%. Don't know what they are, they've been randomized. So let's start. Let's go with A here, which is on my left. Whoop. It's a good piece of salmon. Now let's try B. Also good piece of salmon, but I think there's a little bit less on this one. Now let's try C. I think C is the best. But let's try them again, going from same order as I started with. We'll try A again. I'm pretty sure A has, I'm gonna say right off the bat, A is the 50% and it's good. B I don't think has anything, and then I think C is the 25%. Yeah. Let's see how off I am. C is the 50%. B is the control. A is the 25. So I can definitely tell when there's nothing there, but I couldn't really tell between the amounts that I was putting on there, and I thought the 25% tasted better than the 50. So what does that say? I don't know. But it says that salmon with this particular type of flavor profile, I can at least tell the difference between MSG and no MSG, and I preferred the ones with MSG. Now the amount of MSG, that's subject to, I guess, dialing in that ratio. And there we have it. 4 tests with a few different results. To recap, For the sweet chicken test, I really couldn't discern that with MSG and that without. The second test actually proved to have the most interesting results from my perspective. Not only did I pick out the 50% MSG versus the control and the 25%, but I definitely preferred it over both of them. The meatball test also showed a little bit of preference towards the MSG, and the same can be true with the salmon test. In both cases, I could differentiate the control from those with MSG, but as far as preferences, I think with the salmon, I preferred the MSG than without, but the jury's still kind of out on the meatballs. I think I might need to do some further testing personally to see which I prefer. Now, before we come to my conclusions, it would be really helpful, guys, if you could go and subscribe down below. Leave me a comment, like all that YouTube jazz. It helps keep the channel going, and it, inflates my ego just a little bit. All right, so what are the takeaways here? As far as the question of should you add MSG to your barbecue, well, that's really up to you. For my personal thoughts, well, the first thing is I definitely won't be putting it onto anything sweet. I will, however, probably try it on some other types of chicken, just not the sweet ones, because I think the sweetness kind of just counteracts it and you can't even really tell at all. The biggest result that I was definitely not expecting was that ribs test. It really showed that I have a preference towards that MSG than without, and I think I'm gonna do some further testing. What I'd like to do is get some friends and family in here and see if it's a universal idea, not just my own personal preferences, and see if in general people really do prefer having MSG on spare ribs with that kind of savory taste to it. The problem is, if I had barbecue, that's adding in some sweetness. I don't know if the sweetness is gonna counteract it. So I might end up only determining that doing ribs in a savory style, MSG should go on there. Sweetness with a barbecue sauce, maybe not even bother. But further testing. As far as the fish and the ground brisket, I'm kind of 50-50 on these. I definitely did like the blackened salmon with that MSG, and I think the meatballs I also liked as well. But as far as me deciding if I'm going to start putting it on all of my fish and all of my meatballs, I'm still not completely sure about. The jury's still out, but I'm probably gonna keep testing. And I'm gonna do the same thing I wanna do with my ribs, which is show it to friends, family, get their opinions as well, and then keep trying it, see if my taste changed, or if this is gonna be my new thing. I'm very happy with the way that my barbecue tastes now, so I'm not looking to get some sort of leg up on any sort of competition, but I am interested in enhancing the flavor if it needs to be there. If it doesn't, it's not worth it. It is adding a chemical, which I'm usually not a big fan of, so if anything, I'll probably use it sparingly and only every once in a while. Really when I want that extra kick. Now don't worry guys, you're not gonna start seeing this in all of my recipes as an ingredient. I really wanna do this test mostly for myself, but I figured I'd film it and bring you guys along with me. All that said, guys, what are your thoughts? Give me a comment down below. Let me know if you guys are gonna try and recreate these experiments. If you like putting MSG in your products, if you have no interest in ever putting MSG in your products, I'd still be interested in knowing. If you guys like this kind of investigative content, let me know. I'd be interested in doing some other types of scientific approaches to the different food sciences out there. Take it easy, guys, and as always, cook something fantastic.